Hello everyone. We'll wait for everyone to join and then we can start. Meanwhile, let me just keep my screen shared.
Hello.
Hi Rohi. Happy Dashera.
Yeah, happy Dashera to you too.
Mm, let's wait for 1 minute maybe. I'm not sure if anyone else is joining in. So, right, but then we can start. I hope you can see my screen, right? So, I've shared my IPython notebook. I've already executed it so that we can save some time, right? Okay. I think maybe most probably we can start. Yeah. If anyone else is joining, they can join in as well. I hope you can hear me clearly, right? So let's do a quick recap, right? Let's do a quick recap of what we have done until now. So we have started looking into the telecom churn use case. I explained what is churn. Then we have started to look into the data by understanding the data dictionary. So we started with the dictionary of the data, which we said that we are very lucky to have a data dictionary in place, else we need to be more proactive as a data scientist and we need to create one, right? If that is not there. So that's where all the data engineers and the DBAs are or will be required to help you in the process so that we can create the data dictionary and we can have that in place, which will be referred to from time to time, because also during the explanation of these models, right, the a data dictionary will really be useful because that's the business terminology or the domain terminology that you are going to finally use to communicate the results. It's not the code which is going to talk at the end, right? So now we got that dictionary, we got some idea of what the fields are. We could understand that it has information about customer and gender and value-added services and so on. But then we saw that we have multiple CSV files. So we have one file called churn data, one file called customer data, one file called internet data. Later on, we realized these three files constitute the 21 fields which we have over here, right? Now, uh, that we understood this is the case. So first of all, we read it via pandas. When we looked into the sample data, and then what we did, we simply took the merge function and we were able to merge all the data frames into one. So we created a temporary data frame df1, and then we started to merge all the data frames one after the other, right? So that's what we did. Then we had, or we now have the final frame, right? We have the final frame of data where we have 5 rows and 21 columns is the sample data that we are showing over here. So 21 columns is what we have. Number of rows we have already seen. We have 7,043 rows. And this is the information about the data frame, which overall looks to be okay. There's a combination of a lot of textual fields are there. You see a lot of object things are there. These are textual fields. So they are obviously categorical fields, but they can be textual as well in the sense that they can have text information too. So which we are going to find out and then we have to treat them, because usually any machine learning algorithm, right, out of the box, they will work. Okay, they will work with any kind of, let's say, data. Whether you have represented a category as true and false or whether you have represented it as 1 or 0 doesn't really matter, because ultimately each and every production ready library like sklearn, they are all prepared in such a way, or they are designed in such a way that they have the inherent, let's say, capability to convert all these text into numbers. But if we leave it to that software, right, if I leave it to that library, for that library to do all these activities, then obviously you can understand what's going to be the downside. The downside is my execution will take a lot of time. Now with toy data sets like this one, we only have 7,000 rows. This is okay, right? I am able to run this on my laptop, but later on, if we are going to take bigger use cases, I'll try to find if I have, let's say, bigger data sets where, let's say, data sets are going to scale up to 2 GB, right? 3 GB, or let's say 10 GB. So you can imagine a 10 GB CSV file is going to look how much. So I see over here, there are 7,000 rows with 21 columns, right? And the file size is hardly 1 MB, right? So 1 MB file, 1 MB CSV can contain 7,000 rows, right? Then imagine how any number of rows will be there in a 5 GB file, right? So that's the kind of problem that we are going to have when we have that level of data. And if we are going to not do such kind of practices, which are otherwise known as data engineering or data preparation, then it's going to cause problems for the model to converge, because my main intention is to not only create a model which is giving me good outcome or giving me good estimations, my model should also be very robust in the sense that it's not only going to be once in his lifetime that we are going to create that model. Every now and then, this set of 7,043 customers is going to change, right? So let's say I'm going to take this, or I'm going to do this exercise of taking the CSV files and merging them and then remodeling on top of it every month or every bi-weekly, because that's the kind of customer base I have, or that's the kind of changes I have. So maybe I have a lot of change in my customer base. I do really have a problem of churn, and every 2 weeks I lose a lot of customers, and at the same time I gain a lot of customers also. So if that is the case, that is the situation, then we have to do something about it, right? So that's the reason why such kind of practical models, when they go into production, they have to be retrained at regular intervals of time. Usually that interval can range anything from 2 weeks to 4 weeks or 8 weeks and so on. So it really depends on the organization or the setup where you are working as to how much that gap is going to be, right? uh, I see a hand is raised. Okay, go ahead, Rohit.
Yeah, so can't we reduce the size of this file? Like suppose if you're saying that a file is of 1 GB, 2 GB,
Yeah.
can't we do something to reduce the size of that file so that we can run that smoothly?
Yes, we can do that. There are a couple of options, but they are tied up with big data processing. So example, in the big data world, there is a format, there is a file format which you can try to explore as well. There's a file format called Parquet. Okay, so Parquet is a file format, okay, which we can use. Okay, so this is a column-oriented data storage format. This is part of the Hadoop ecosystem. Now, Hadoop, if you may have heard, this is part of the big data ecosystem. So now we have to go over to that kind of data engineering platform where we can, convert that big CSV of 5 GB into Parquet, or even better, we can convert it into another format which is Avro, right? So if we convert it into another format like Avro is really the compact binary format because it serializes the data, right? Then that 5 GB of data becomes only 50 MB, or let's say 100 MB of data, right? But then you will need that kind of library also, because pandas out of the box will not be able to read Avro. So you will need to play around with that kind of a system also to make it workable, right? So as you can understand, if you're going to change the format, or if you're going to change the way in which you're going to work, more and more tools are going to get introduced in the life cycle, which is also a practical reality, because CSV is often more than not the not so common data format which we use, right? I mean, even in my organization as well, in the organization where I'm working, we seldom see a data set which is in CSV format. Okay, we usually see data sets which are in Avro format, or which will be in the bzip2 format, or it will be 7z format, so zip format, or maybe it will be in the Parquet format, and so on, right? So that's the format in which we will find that data, and then we will have to play around with the big data tools to flatten them, to do all the data engineering that we are doing right now using tools like let's say MapReduce or Apache Spark or Hive or Impala and so on. And then we can arrive at a position whereby we can do these activities. So that can also be controlled from here. Yes, so the entire life cycle can be controlled using a Jupyter notebook only, where I can write all my code to process and shorten, or let's say zip the data, binarize the data, and then I can play around. Yeah.
Okay, so this Avro and this Parquet thing,
Yeah.
and also dot 7z file. So does Panda work on these type of files, or we have to convert some into some other
Uh,
form also?
maybe that will work. Let's see how to read Avro files with pandas directly. So I believe no, I think it is there. I think it is there. Although I've not done it directly because I use Spark to process it, and then I convert it like this. So yeah, so it is there. So you see, there is pandas, there is FastAvro library, and we are able to open it using this FastAvro.reader function. It is able to read the file, right? FP is the file path, and then it is able to read it inside a variable called records. I hope you're able to see it. Let me just zoom
Yes,
it.
yes.
Yeah. So then it is able to read that into a data frame using the records. So as you can see over here, pandas is not directly able to read the Avro file, right? We have to do
Yeah,
some kind of a
yeah.
conversion.
Okay.
Then only pandas is reading it.
And by Avro, the GB's file will be converted into few of MBs, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is what we have seen. So let's say if you have 50 GB, 60 GB file, right, it can easily be converted into 5 GB. Right?
Okay,
So 10 times kind of a compression can be done. Yeah.
okay. And also, can't we change the data type? Like suppose in the file you have just shown
Mm.
in the IPython notebook, yeah, this is a float 64. Can't
Yeah.
we change that to float 32 and all so that we
Yes.
may reduce the size?
Yes, we can do that also. That might help reduce the size, but that reduction will be very small because float 64 is just a representation in the memory. If we change it to float 32, it does not necessarily change the value or the number of rows, right? So it is not the width of the column which is making the problem. The problem is this number,
Okay, because yeah, in
right?
C, the size of that 64 data type is almost double of that 32. That's what.
Yeah. So yes. So that kind of a concept applies here also, right? But that affects the memory to some extent because anyways, when you are reading the data using a data frame, it has already optimized it for you. So majorly we don't have to think about it. But yes, that's a good point because at times we will be doing that kind of a conversion, usually between float and integer or between object and float and so on.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Uh, I think we can continue. So the last thing before we start as of now is that we started to look at the description of the fields. Now clearly there are a few things which we can find out. So these three are the numeric fields, right? So they have no null fields, which is very good. But the tenure variable or how much a customer is there with me has an average of 32. This is in months, if I'm not wrong. So average 32 months a customer is there with me, but the standard deviation is that of 2 years. So 32 plus minus 24 is the variation, right? So if 32 is the average, on the right side I can go to plus 24 months, on the left side I can go to minus 24 months. This gives me the range, right? Which means, as you already know from the empirical rule, if you try to remember what was the empirical rule, I will consider this as a normally distributed data because I have more than 30 variables, right? So we already know that the more number of samples we have, a data set tries to converge into a normal variable. So if it converges into a normal variable and I consider the mean to be over here, so this is 32, then obviously by means of empirical rule, I know that mean plus minus 2 standard deviations is going to cover what? 95% of my data. So 95% of my customers will be covered by 32 plus minus 48, right? Because 24 is the standard deviation. So 2 standard deviation becomes 48. 48 on this side, 48 on this side, right? So that's the range. Okay. So is that really a very, very good thing to know about? I don't think so, because if you do a very small kind of a calculation, even for mean plus minus 1 standard deviation, you see there are customers who are with you for as less as 8 months, okay, or this range is also 8. So this kind of a range is really not a very good indication of the business. So there is some kind of a problem here, because minus 24 makes it 8, plus 24 is going to make it plus 24 is going to make it what? 56, right? Yeah. So yeah, right. So from 8 months until 56 months, so you have a lot of variation in the data. Now this is good from the statistical point of view, because you get a lot of different kind of users which you can try to model. But is this number really good for you, right? May not be, because your average lifetime is actually, I mean, the practical lifetime is only 8, or you can say this is the practical range of mean plus minus 1 standard deviation. This is where 65% of your data lies. So 65% of your customers, okay, 65% of your customers are within this range, plus minus 1 standard deviation, right? So it is between this 25% to 75%, right? You see these numbers are closely matching, but don't take these numbers as the actual numbers. You should do the calculations and you should take. And 95% of the customers are going to fall into what? 32 minus 48, right? So if you do a 32 minus 48, you imagine your age is going in a negative direction, right? So this does not indicate a problem with your data. Okay, this does not indicate that you are doing a wrong calculation. But from a business point of view, this indicates that you have some really nasty problems, because you can clearly see there is a, or there are set of customers which you are going to find out their uh, age or tenure with the company as a customer has only been equal to 0. This is really bad. This is really bad because they have not even stayed with you for a single month. So why I am saying all these things is because more often than not, the statistical measures that we have seen until now, right? The very basics, then the distributions, then the tests like p-test, t-test, z-test, and the ANOVA test, and so on. So these are kind of tests that you can always do. So please don't be under this impression we are trying to learn logistic regression here. So we will only be focusing on this machine learning algorithm and go home. So that's one thing you can do. I mean, if that is the requirement which is given to you, very well. I mean, we can do that and then we can close the laptop, right? But it's quite effective or quite required for all of us to look into the other aspects also. For example, the monthly charges. If you look at the monthly charges, average 64. I believe this is represented into rupees, but we can go up and we can check that also. So let's just go up and quickly check that. What is that monthly charge variable? Where is monthly charge? Yeah. Specifies the money paid by a customer in each month. So I don't know whether this is in dollars or in INR, but let me consider that it is in INR. Okay, let me just assume that this data belongs to Indian customers. And then it's 64 rupees per month, although very impractical, but let's say it is 64 rupees plus month, per month. Okay, the minimum is 18 rupees per month, right? This may well be your minimum recharge. So if you are an operating company in India, you already know that in Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, we have a rule that you have to take the minimum charges from the customers, right? This may well be that value, but then majority of your customers are falling within the range of 35 to 90. So they have a very handsome spending limit, but then there are outliers as well, right? I mean, if you see 75% of your customers are spending up to 90 rupees, but then there are customers who have also spent up to 120 rupees, right? Or to, let's say on $20 if this number was represented into dollars, right? So these are kind of findings that we have to always take care of, because these are useful insights. These are insights that you can upfront share, and this will not only provoke more questions, this is going to give a very good outlook about the data which you have or the customers which you have. See, very simple techniques I've used. I've not used anything else, but let me introduce a terminology here. There is also another reason why I said this. Okay, so this 5 points over here, these 5 lines over here, are also known as a 5-point summary. So in some statistical outputs, you might find that people are presenting their output and they are writing things like, here is the 5-point summary. So what is the 5-point summary actually means? It means, first of all, point number 1 and point number 5 are min and max, which represents the range. So 1 till 5 or 1 and 5, okay, this will be and 1 and 5, it represents the range of the data. For the rest of the 3, which is 2, 3 and 4, these 3 lines represents the quartiles. Okay, these are known as the quartiles. We have already read about what is quartiles. So this is quartile 1, quartile 2 and quartile 3. Now, why is this important is because the difference between quartile 1 and quartile 3 gives me the interquartile range. Now, why is this interquartile range important, or why are we learning about the interquartile range? We are learning about interquartile range because sooner or later, and in this data set also we have to do that. I have already done some homework. I could see there are outliers. So maybe there are outliers in the data. And that's where this interquartile range is going to come handy, right? We have to devise a way in which we can effectively use the interquartile range to identify the outliers, and then basis my business knowledge, basis my domain, I'm going to make a decision. And my decision will be as simple as, shall I continue with the outliers, right? Or shall I get rid of them? So that's the kind of decision making which I have to do, right? So interquartile range is going to come handy in that case. I hope this was not specifically mentioned earlier. So that's the reason why I just wanted to quickly touch base on this. Okay. So these are the practical things that we get out of the describe command only. But then how many columns do we have? We have 21 columns, right? And how many do we see over here? 1, 2, and 3. So this is a problem. This is a problem because I have a data set which has 21 columns. I have a data set which has 21 columns, and using an out of the box describe, I'm only able to get information about tenure because it's an integer. I'm getting information about monthly charge because it is float 64, and the senior citizen flag, which is int 64. Now, what is senior citizen? Let's quickly go back to the data dictionary and we'll find it out. So senior citizen is written over here. Senior citizen, whether a customer can be classified as a senior citizen or not. So this is already giving you a 0 or 1 value. So minimum is 0, maximum is 1, which simply means that this is a value which is already encoded for us. Okay, this was a textual value maybe in the database from where it is extracted. And whomsoever has created this CSV, right, they have already pre-handed it to you by doing an encoding. Okay, so they have encoded yes is equal to 1, no is equal to 0. Okay, that is going to be your assumption because in the data definition, they have not specifically mentioned what is 0 and what is 1, right? So you have to assume that, or maybe you will have to go back to the data engineer and you will have to figure out, right? So this is the only 3 fields which are there in the format that I can describe like this. Okay, the rest, all of the fields are object fields. So now comes a very, very big part. And this part is otherwise known as data preparation. Okay, so data preparation is the most essential thing which we do as part of any machine learning use case. Let that be a regression use case, let that be a classification use case. We are going to use this. Okay, and the reason why we use this is because, as I said, my algorithm, I know it can work with the textual data. It will anyways inherently convert it into numbers, right? But then there are 2 problems. First of all, I don't know which kind of a methodology is that algorithm going to use. And the second thing which I don't know is that whether or not depending on my data size, how much efficient this dependency is going to cost me, right? So if I am entirely dependent on my library to fit a model with textual data also, right, then it will fit. I can right away import the library from sklearn and I can fit a model, it will work. It may or may not be a very efficient model, but it will still work, which means that the code is capable of doing this activity. But if we are going to, let's say, dummy map it or binary map it, or let's say one hot encode it or label encode it, right, then that's going to help. Now, we already know what is label encoding. We already know what is one hot encoding. We will be doing label encoding first, but in a different way. This time we are not going to use the library. Okay, so it's just another way for me to show you how you can do label encoding. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a var list. Okay, this is a variable that I'm going to create. Okay, in this variable, what I'm going to do, let that be empty. As of now, let that be empty. And what I'm going to do, telecom dot inf or telecom dot columns. Okay, if I do a telecom dot columns, I get the list of all the columns. From here, I can clearly see there are certain set of yes no columns. Okay, what are those yes no columns? Let's try to write them down. Now this is basis my domain knowledge, right? Or this is basis the data definition that I've already looked into. So basis the use case, this is going to change, right? So you have to use your knowledge. You have to use the data dictionary and the domain knowledge in this case. So as per my knowledge, the first thing I would like to put in this list is the phone service. Okay, because phone service, I know that it can either be 0 or 1. Where is phone service? Yes, right. So phone service can either be 1 or 0. That I know already. What is the next thing which can be 1 or 0? That I know, paperless billing. Right. What is the next thing which can be 1 or 0? Is there anything next? Yes, churn will be 1 or 0, or churn will be yes or no. Right. I'm going to convert it now into 1 or 0. Right. What is going to be the next thing? Partner. Right. Partner can be 1 or 0. Am I married or not married? That's it. Right. And then I can have another one, which are the dependents. Do I have any dependents or no? So how did I get this list? This is entirely basis the data definition. So basis the definition, I have tried to find out. You see, just for an example, if you look at the dependents field, if a customer has dependents or no, if a customer has the dependents, it means it is yes no field, right? So if that's the case, okay, then let me just look at the data once and let me quickly verify if my understanding is wrong. All right, so var list, and I do a head. See, each and every field is yes no yes no yes no yes no. Right? You can also do this using something like this. I mean, you could have looked at the entire data and found that out. So yes no is there in phone service. Then again into, let's say, paperless billing. Then we have churn, and then we are not able to see the other areas. Maybe gender was a good example also, but let's do it in a different way. So that's why I did not do it here. So I just want to show you multiple ways in which we are going to encode the data. So this is one of the simplest ways. Now, we have already done one kind of encoding earlier, where what we have done, we have imported, if you remember, sklearn.preprocessing library we imported, and in there we had the label encoding function. We simply used it and my job was done. Right? Now I'm going to do it in a manual way. Okay, I would like to do it in a manual way. So what I'm going to do, I am creating a function, okay, to binary map my data for yes, no kind of fields, right? So I'm going to call this, function as binary underscore map, and I'm going to take an input of x. Okay, I'm going to take an input of x, and what I'm going to return is return x dot map. So value of the x will be mapped as, if it is yes, then map it as 1, and if it is no, then you map it as 0. Right? So I'm simply defining a small dictionary here. Right? I could have written it in this also. I'm just trying to make my code concise by taking the definition or the value of the dictionary. I can put it over here, and my code becomes really concise. Single liner. I return a map. Now I could have done this using a lambda function also. Please note that we already know that inline functions can be, or single liner functions can be written using lambda also, right? So it's the function that I've created. I can simply pass all the features which I've already identified as var list. I'm going to pass these into this function and I'm going to get their mapping, right? How am I going to do that? Very, very simple way. There is a very simple way in pandas which I'm going to use. So what I'm going to say, telecom var list, right, is equal to telecom var list, okay, dot. I'm going to call a function which is apply. Okay, I'm going to apply what? I'm going to apply the function which is binary map. At the first place, this is a bit tricky, a bit, let's say, difficult to understand, but clearly what pandas is allowing me to do using the apply function is that I can call any function. Okay, I can call any function. In this case, the function name is binary map on the entire data frame or a subset of the data frame. And in this case, I've defined the subset using this list of the columns, right? If I run this, it is going to map my variables like this. If I do a head, I should be able to see now that it has converted everything into 1010101010, right? I just wanted to show this to you because this is one way in which you can do, and this is not performance unfriendly, if you know what I mean. So just that you have an efficient production ready function available from sklearn, that does not mean you should not sometimes override it. If you want, you can override. Okay, there are ways to do it, and I just wanted to show you that because these functions are also as effective as the import statement of the label encoder and so on, right? I hope until this point it's clear.
Yes.
Okay, so then let's try to continue. Now there are other fields also which we have to take care of. So now I'm going to use a different technique, right? I'm now going to use a different technique to convert my text into numbers, and that technique is known as dummy data. Okay, what do you mean by dummy data? Let's try to understand what is dummy data. Dummy data is usually exactly the same as one hot encoding, though with a small twist. The twist is something like this. Let's say I have a column and I have three distinct values in that column, A, B, and C. What dummy encoding process advises me is that if you are going to convert this into one hot encoding, let's say the column name is C1. If you convert this to one hot encoding, what are the columns you get? C1 underscore A, C1 underscore B, C1 underscore C, right? And the values you get it C1A for this row. Okay, this row, and this row. I'm going to map these rows. So here A is there, B and C is not there. So 1, 0, 0. Then for the second row, it will be 0, 1, 0. And the last row will be 0, 0, 1. This is what one hot encoding is doing. Now my point is, what if, okay, what if I would like to reduce the dimension of this data? I don't want these three fields. I just want two fields. Can I survive with those two fields? The logical answer is yes. How? Let me change the color and let me show you. So let's say I select only these two columns from the output of one hot encoding. So I have done one hot encoding here, right? I've converted C1 into three columns, C1A, C1B, C1C. Now what I'm saying, I want to reduce the dimensions. I don't want to take three columns. I'll take only two. Can I survive with these two columns? By dropping this column. I'm going to drop this column and I will only use these two columns. Can I survive? Think about it. Can I survive? Any idea?
I don't think so.
Okay. One perspective to look at it is the answer is yes. Why is that answer yes? Is because I'll tell you why the answer is yes. If the value of column C1b is 0 and the value of column C1c is 0, then what is the value expected for this row? It is neither B, neither C, and I already know the value is going to be A, right? The values can either be A or B or C. So if it is not B and if it is not C, then obviously the value is A. So in that case, do I now need this column? The answer is no. After this explanation that I've given, right? I no longer need this column because obviously if I have a 1-0 condition or a 0-1 condition, I know what is the value, right? For that row, I have got the mapping. But if I have got a 0-0, I just have to take the not operator, right? If you go back to your electronics days or the logic gates days, I just have to take the not operator here. It simply means it is not B, it is neither B nor C. And I know that I can have the values A, B, and C. So if I'm already aware of the values A, B, and C, then one cool technique is I can drop this column. And if the values of the rest of the columns is equal to 0, I can clearly say this value is A. Why? Because the value for B is 0, the value for C is 0. Right? But in these two cases, these are the simple cases. These are the simple cases where I am going to say it is going to be B and C because I have the value 1. This is the technique which is used by pandas or any data frame which is created in pandas using a technique which is known as dummies, or we can also call it dummification. Okay, or the process is converting the values into dummies. So what it usually does is it creates a set like this. Okay, it creates a set like this and optionally gives you the capability to drop one of these fields, which is optional. If you want, you can do that, right? As you answered, your answer is also not wrong here, Rohi. Your answer is also right. If you believe you need the 3 fields, irrespective of how big the dimension of the data is, I don't care. I have good hardware. It doesn't matter. If that's the case, go ahead. You don't have to drop the column. You don't have to drop any of the columns, right? But it is the same concept of degree of freedom. So if I had the number of columns as n, I used to consider n minus 1 in my statistical tests, right? As the degree of freedom. So that's exactly what I'm doing over here. If I have n columns, I'll take n minus 1. So if I had n rows in statistics, I used to say n minus 1 is my degree of freedom. In the same way, what I'm saying is, if I have n minus columns after the dummification or encoding in this format, then I can still survive with n minus 1 because logically it represents all the scenarios. So if you want, pandas provides you this dummification process where if you want optionally you can drop a field, and that's exactly what we are going to try. Right, we are going to try that and see what benefits it is going to give us. Right, now how do you do that? Again, you have to identify the columns which you want to dummify. Right, so let's say I would like to do this for var list 2, which is going to be my next set of, let's say, 5 columns, or maybe I will take 4 columns. I'll take the first column as maybe what I'll do, I'll create a field over here and I'm going to say telecom.columns. Okay, the first field I'm going to take over here is the contract field. Okay, customer ID I'm not going to consider. I've already told you ID of a customer does not make any sense, right? My name is something, it does not really define me. Had it been my name would have been something different also, we would still be having the session, right? So my name or my unique identifier or my personal identifier is not really an attribute which we can consider. So later on, we're going to drop this ID field because it is not going to contribute anything scientific into the models that we are going to create. So we don't need that. It is similar to your employee ID. At certain point in time, you joined your organization. As a result of which you have got a number which is given to you as your employee ID or maybe an alphanumeric combination. But that combination has nothing to do with the qualities which you have, right? It has nothing to do with the talent which you have, right? It has nothing to do with the kind of appraisals you are going to get. In the same way, customer ID belongs to the data because it is there in the data, kind of common field which we have used to join the data. But mathematically, it does not signify any value. Hence, later on, we are going to drop it. So as of now, in the data engineering part, we are not really considering it, right? Now, tenure, we know it is a numeric value. We should not be considered. Phone service, we have already done. Next one is contract. So we have taken contract. Paperless billing, I believe we have done that earlier. So let me go ahead with payment method, right? Then I have the next field, which is gender, right? The next field is going to be gender because these two are continuous values. This I have already converted. Yes, no. Gender can have three values, right? Gender can have three values, male, female, and third or fourth, right? We can have any values in gender. We don't know what is there in this data. Maybe we can try and find out. Okay, we can find out how many values are there in this data. So what we can do, value counts, and we're going to take a thing like this. As of now, it is male and female. So maybe we could have gone through this kind of a procedure as well. So we could have put it into our var list one and we could have processed it as well, right? But I have considered the possibility that there can be more genders mentioned. Okay. Then the last is internet service. Okay, maybe in internet service also we have yeah, you see we have three values. So yeah, so let's check the contract field once. So contract, okay, contract field is not there or what? Contract field, oh sorry, it is in capital, sorry. So contract field has three distinct values. Let me just convert this also. Then I have payment method. Let me see what all distinct values are there. So I have four values, right? I have four values, quite well distributed for the last three. The first one is a bit high, electronic check, okay. Then I have gender, then I have internet service. So let me just delete this field. I don't need it anymore. So var list 2, now I have these four, okay. So for these four, what I am doing essentially is I'm just going to create a new temporary data frame. Let's say dummy 1. Okay, here I'm going to store the dummies for these columns. Okay, so what I'm going to do, pandas is aliased as PD. So I'm going to call that alias here PD dot get dummies. Right? This is the function that I'm going to use. It takes two variables. The first is the data you want to convert. Second is the optional variable. Do you want to drop that one row or do you want to drop that one column or not? It has other variables also. I mean, I'm not saying that it only has two things. You can read through the documentation. You will find there might well be, depending on the version of pandas, right? There can be many other inputs, but we are interested into simplified set of inputs. For us, the primary concern, I have to dummify the data. So I need the data set. Data set should be one of the inputs. The other input, if we are doing a dummification, I know I have the option to drop one of the columns. Should I opt for it or no? Is what I'm going to do. So here the first parameter will be var list 2, right? Telecom in brackets var list 2. This is my data that I want to convert. And the second one, I'm going to use it here actually, and which will be drop first is equal to true. If I put this variable or this input variable is set to true, right? Then one of those columns, the first column, okay, so will be dropped. So what I mean by that is, let's say in case of contract, if we have 4 unique variables or 4 unique values, then 4 fields will be created, right? Out of which the first field is going to be dropped because I don't need it, right? If I do this, I've created a dummy 1 data frame. So clearly what it is doing is, you see contract 1 year and contract 2 year. How many distinct fields are there in contract? Telecom, contract, and let's take a value counts and get the counts. I have month to month, 2 year and 1 year. So it has dropped month to month. I still have 2 year and I still have 1 year. So wherever both of them are 0, it is clear that I have a month to month contract, right? That is the reason why I do not need the first one. Same concept as the degree of freedom, right? I have just copied that concept over here because using a degree of freedom, my statistical tests used to run. In this case also, it is going to run. It is not a synonymous concept. Please don't think I'm applying the same formula here. Okay, formula is not the same, right? The technique is not the same. Just to remember, you can remember it like this. Just like we used to consider degree of freedom as number of samples minus 1, in this case also we can get rid of the first column, or for that matter any column, any one column out of the set of columns, because the rest of the columns are going to define my output. The same thing is happening with this credit card, electronic check, and this, right? So what it is doing, it is taking the column name, putting an underscore, and then it is putting the value for which it is creating it. Now see why this makes sense, right? Why this dummification makes sense. Here you see whether the person is a male or a female. Simple, right? I don't need to know whether the person is a female. I already know, as per my data, there are two categories, male and female, in my gender column. If this field, if this column is 0, clearly the customer is not a male, right? Which means she's a female. So to represent that, do I really need another column? The answer is no. So practically I can reduce a lot of columns here, right? I can make my data more concentrated than being more spread out, right? Fine. Now I have created this dummy thing here. Now what should I do? I have to get it back into the data frame, right? My main concern is to get it back into the data frame. How do I get it back? Is as simple as telecom is equal to pd dot concat. I'm going to concatenate. I'm going to concatenate two things. One is the existing telecom data frame along with dummy one. I'm going to explain right now what is meant by concatenation, but I'm just going to use a variable over here which is access equal to 1. This is the answer of how the concatenation is done. So if I have a data frame which has, let's say, 3, 4, and 6 columns here, right? So C1 to C6, I have 6 columns, and I have another data set which has only 3 columns, right? So this is an M cross N matrix, and this is an M cross P matrix. So you see the number of rows M is same for both the matrices. If I concatenate, what is the output I'm going to get? The output I'm going to get is M cross N plus P, right? Concatenation simply means I'm going to add it at the end. At the end. Now, how is defined by this axis? Okay. If axis is equal to 1, it means I'm going to concatenate by means of the columns. So if I have 5 columns over here, simply concatenate these 3 columns at the end, at the tail of these 5 columns. Right? That is the meaning of the concatenation function. If I do this, I get an output which is something like this. Now I have 29 columns. Why 29? Because here I have got 8 columns. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I originally had already 21 columns. Now the last 9 or the last 8 are also added in. Total number of columns is 29. Obviously, you may well be thinking, what is the need of the original columns now? You are 100% correct. We can drop them, right? And we are going to drop them, right? So this is one way of doing the dummification. Now, what is the advantage of doing the label encoding, and what is the advantage of doing the dummification here? So as we have already discussed quickly, just for a revision, if I have more than 2 outcomes, right? If I have more than 2 outcomes, I do a dummification or one hot encoding. If I have 1 to 2 classes, then I do label encoding. Label encoding is exactly same as what I have done in my binary map function. And the only reason I created a binary map function is because so that I can control the labels or the values which will be given to each and every labels or the unique classes in the variable. Because if I simply import the library and I do a conversion, obviously I have no control on what scikit-learn is going to do. Which value will be taken as 1, which value will be taken as 0, that I don't know, right? But in my case of creating a function, I am able to control it, right? Now, let's go ahead. Hope it is clear until this point in time.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now what we can do is that there are other fields as well where we can do the dummification. So let's try to see what those fields are. Telecom dot columns. What are those two fields? So I have columns like this, and what I can do is that for each column in telecom dot columns, okay, what I'm going to do, print the value counts of each column. No, print the unique values of each of these columns, one after the other. So what I'm going to do, print, okay, print telecom. Inside the braces, I'm going to use what? Each column, and I'm going to use a function which is n unique. Okay, let's see if this works. So it works, but I don't know which field is what. So I have to print that. So I have to write it over here that each column, comma, column has, okay, comma, this many unique values, right? If I do that, I can clearly see how many are there, right? Now I need, okay, I need fields where, okay, where I have more than two values, right? For example, contract. So contract, I have already done that. I have already converted it here. So contract, I'm not going to convert, right? What can I convert then? Two values. Paperless billing, I believe I've already converted. Yes, because it has values, makes no sense. Payment method, I've already converted. Monthly charges, I should not. Total charges, I should not. Churn, I have done. Gender, I have done. Senior citizen was already there. Partner, I have done. Or the partner was done, or yeah, I have done it using binary mapping. So okay, dependents, it was there already, I believe, but the dependents, I no, I think it was there already. Then I have multiple lines. Multiple lines I have not done. Internet service I have not done. Online security I have not done. So these are fields that I have not done. These are the fields, right? These are the fields that I have not done. So why not I take them into var list 3 and I put them over here, and then what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to, this is going to be just a 2-minute job. Please bear with me. So I'm just going to take this and say delete, and I'm going to put a single quote over here. Hope you are able to understand what I'm trying to do. I'm creating a list of the columns that I would like to convert. Okay, then the next column will be tech support, right? Then next column will be streaming TV. Then next column will be streaming movies, right? So I have got a list of all the columns that I would like to convert. Let me just create line over here and see if I'm doing it correctly or not. Multiple lines. Yes, multiple lines. Yes, I need online security. Yes, internet service. Do I need internet service? How many values are there in internet service? Internet service, yes, I can do that. Why not? Let me just create a new column and see telecom and in bracket internet service value counts. So it has fiber optic, DSL, and no, but have I already converted it? I don't know. Let me just quickly see. Internet service I have converted. Sorry. Internet service I have converted. Sorry, I missed it. This is my fault. I missed it. I have already converted it. Online security I have not. Online backup I have not. Device protection I have to. Then tech support is fine. Then I have streaming TV, yes. Then I have streaming movies, correct. I think this list is now fine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete, 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 and delete. Yeah. So I have this list now. Var list 3. Let me just delete this, and again I'm going to do dummy2 is equal to pd dot get dummies in the bracket telecom var list 3 and drop first is equal to true, Okay, I did a typo, but I'm going to continue with that. So I'm now going to say telecom is equal to pd.concat. I'm going to say, yeah, so the first entry will be telecom, second will be DUMM2. It will not be dummy2 because I have done a typo, right? So it will be dum2. And then I'm going to say the access is going to be on the columns. So let's now see what has happened to my data. Now I have 43 columns. It has done a very good encoding of my data. Now that I have encoded my data, do I really need the columns from where I have done the encoding? The answer is no, I do not need that, right? So what can I do? Telecom is equal to telecom dot drop. Okay, I'm simply going to say telecom dot drop is a function in pandas data frame. Dot drop I can use. It takes two parameters, or I am going to pass two parameters. Parameter number one, the columns I want to drop. Parameter number two is going to be on which axis am I going to drop them. So when I'm using this function drop, I'm not saying that you have to drop the columns or you have to drop the rows. It has to understand on which axis I want to drop. In this case, my axis is going to be 0. In this case, it is going to be equal to 1, right? Why? Because in pandas, axis equal to 0 means rows, axis equal to 1 means columns, right? I want to drop these columns. That's the meaning of that one, that number that I've passed over here. Now, which columns do I want to drop? I've already converted some columns. Let me get back and see which columns have I converted. I've converted var list, right? I have converted var list 2. I have converted var list 3, right? So var list is one I want to convert. Okay. Then the second, that will be var list 2. And then the third, that will be var list 3. Now I have telecom dot head, and the data looks to be something like this. I have 27 columns and 5 rows because I've taken a head. Let me just do a telecom.info. I should be able to see how many data we have. I have almost all of the data is converted into a number other than total charges. Total charges I have to deal. There's something I missed out. I thought this is a numeric value, right? But let's say total charges is also in a number in a string. I have to convert it into a number. I missed it, right? So I will be doing that. But barring that field, tenure and monthly charges, these are already in float, and then everything else is converted into unary integers. Okay, byte size 8. This is also a variable or a variable type in Python, right? Now I have to do something about this thing, this total charges thing. Now in Python or in Panda, there is already a function called as type. As type function, as type, sorry, as type. This function helps you convert the data type, or I will not say convert, represent the data type from one format to another. Let's say I have a integer. I would like to represent it as a floating point number with 2 places after the decimal. Not sure why I'm doing this, because after the decimal, anyways, I will be getting 2 zeros if I'm going to convert an integer into a float. But if that is the requirement, then I can use as int function there, right? Or as type function there, sorry. And inside there, I'm going to pass the name. So how you use that, you can also check the documentation. Maybe it was as underscore type or something like this. So you take the data frame and you take the column name here. So let's say this is column 1, and you do a dot as type, and then you specify the target type. Let's say I want to convert it as integer, so I'm going to put it like this, right? And I'm going to convert it into, let's say, int 64. Okay, so I'm going to put it like this. So this is one way to convert. Yes, I know that I can convert my variable in this way. I would like to show you one more way, right? I would like to show you one more way. It's a bit lengthier in terms of the code we need to write, but it is a bit more intuitive. As type is where you have to remember these data types. If you don't remember, you have to go to the documentation, you have to check them because it requires that as an input. What if I don't want to remember it? I simply say, I have a data frame telecom, and then I have a column, which one I have to convert? This one, right? So I take the column name from here, copy paste. I have to convert telecom total charges as telecom total charges should be converted, okay, converted from objects to I call a function called convert objects. Okay, and I simply pass a Boolean feature, which is convert numeric is equal to true. Do I want to convert it into numeric format or no? Okay, convert objects is not there. Why is it not there? Total charges dot convert of convert objects. No, I have done it, let's say, correctly only, right? Maybe in this version, the version that I'm using does not have it. Convert object, convert numeric is equal to true. Why? Let me see. Pandas convert object. Oh, it is deprecated. I think it is deprecated 0.2. But let me see if it is no, it is deprecated. It is actually deprecated, so I cannot do anything. But this is one way, right? I should have checked this, but this is one way in which I can convert it. Okay. Now, because it is not there with me, I have no other option. I have to fall back to my not so favorite way. Okay. So if I just look at the documentation, I have, okay, this is geeks for geeks, which will also work. There's an as type function. I have to pass the D type. Okay. I just have to pass the type in which I would like to consider it. I would just like to consider it as a float. So I'm going to call it here, let's say float 64. Cannot convert string into float. Yeah, that's the point. Str. Maybe this will work. String methods has no attribute. No, it is not converting. Let me see the example. So yeah, this should work, right? But I need to have yeah, I need to have the decimal. So where is this? The salary is this, right? This is what they're converting. So data salary is equal to data salary as type int. Now, why is it not? Maybe I have missed something. Yeah. So let me just check this. As type b string. Okay, this is one version. Okay. As type str. As the okay. This is also another cool way. This is a really good way. As type str, as type string. But where is no? This is the same thing I'm doing, but why is it not working? Let me just see. As type is. This is the documentation. Yes. Okay. So I have the data. D types I can get. Then I have df as type. Okay. Okay. So I have got the point now. I think in place parameter is there or what? No, in place is not there. In place is not there. Fine. So what I'm going to do, telecom dot d types is this. Okay, these are the data types. I have to convert monthly charge. No, I have to convert total charges, right? So I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do this, and I will take this as float 64. I will take this column name as total charges, and in place of df I'm going to write telecom. Could not convert string to float. This is a problem. Okay, maybe we are already done with the time. We can take a logical stop over here. Let me try to fix this, Rohi. If you find any solutions, please do share. But I believe there will be a very simple solution to this, or maybe we will roll back to the previous version and use my favorite command. That's one easy way, right? But then let's make a stop over here. Let's try to do this as type kind of a conversion in the next session, right? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Rohit.
Good
Thank
night.
you so
Yeah.
much.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good
Thank you.
night.